And we offer almost all the speciality with quality. And I'm proud to say that at MTRH, you will get the best quality service with minimal waiting time. And these hospitals came as a result of several collaborators that we have had. We have our major collaborators, Moi University, and MTRH is the teaching hospital for Moi University. And we have other collaborators from the North American universities, amongst them Indiana University, which is has been very pivotal in the development of institutes within MTRH. And those are the number of hospitals that we have in MTRH. They are almost semi-autonomous and quite independent with different managements. And from these hospitals, you see several researches can go on and are actually going on. The most important, not to say that the others are less important, is for me, is the Chandaria Cancer and Chronic Diseases Center, because that's where I work. We have colleagues, specialized colleagues who work in all these various hospitals. I will give an example of Shufor African Children Hospital, which is the only public children's hospital that I know about, and in it is housed the oncology unit of the children, the emergency unit of the children. It's a complete hospital on its own. And then we have the Relay and Mother Baby Hospital, where everything is complete. You walk in as a mother, you get your baby, and there's a NICU there. And then we have AMPATH. I think Prof. Kimayo will talk after me and will tell us so much that goes on about care in AMPATH, so I will not talk so much about that. And then I think we have a very robust critical care unit with 63 beds. And recently we have had a mental health unit where there is rehabilitation of mental patients that goes on there. Our radiotherapy machine unit is one of the newest radiotherapy machines in the public hospitals. 2 months ago, we commissioned VMAT, which is a state-of-the-art radiotherapy machine, and I think one of the very few machines in this country. And our radiotherapy waiting time for external beam radiotherapy is about 6 weeks, at most 8 weeks. If you are a child, you do not wait. You are seen, we prescribe the radiation and you proceed. If you have an oncology emergency that requires radiotherapy, we will also do that. There is no waiting time for that. Next. We opened our door for the radiation on 1st of February, and so far we have done 23,356 radiotherapy sessions, EBRT. We have also done 284 brachytherapy sessions. We do about 10 to 12 brachytherapy sessions in a week, and we have only 5 days waiting time for brachytherapy. So it's a very robust oncology unit that not only delivers chemotherapy but also gives radiotherapy in a using state-of-the-art machines. Next. So our research, we have an institution that approves all the researches that go on at MTRH. We do about 200 approvals per month. And this research that go on they include clinical trials, they include retrospective studies, observational studies, and I would want to mention that it is the body that actually approves studies for students, PhD, master students at Moi University and the neighboring institutions. And that is our numbers. We began as a research institution in the year 2002. And by April 2023, that is our numbers. The small dip you see there at the end of 2001 is because of COVID, but you can see we are catching up. Next. This is just a graphical presentation of what you had seen earlier. Next. Summary of the research as had gone on in the year 2022 in water. And this is AMPATH Center, where the robust research studies go on. And I think Professor Kimayo will talk about care. I think I've kept time. Please clap for me.
So thank you very much, Sarah, for that nice presentation. Now, may I just warn the audience that I will not be asking you, I will not have a session for questions and answer now, but at the end of all the speakers having given their presentations, there will be a session where you can ask any of the speakers a question. This is because of what happened in the morning, so let's catch up with time. So our next speaker, therefore, will be Esther Achar. And Esther Achar is a registered dietitian with a master's degree in human nutrition. She is also, her interest is in nephrology, nutritionist, in nutrition, and she also works with the USAID and the Ujenge Jamii program. She will be talking on a topic which is given here, climate change and the effect on food security, production, utilization and access to small gardening, and consider addressing household food security in Nakuru East Sub-County. So you are welcome, Esther. You have also 10 minutes. And the rapporteur here, they can.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I hope we'll all be awake as I run us through the presentation. So, just taking the opportunity to thank Keme for giving us this chance to be able to really share some of our best practices. So I work with USAID Tujenge Jamii. That's a project that's been implemented in Nakuru, Baringo, Laikipia, and Samburu counties. So we support HIV care and treatment, but also support RAMCA. So I will be talking about RAMCA in Nakuru East Sub-County. Next. Yeah. So we're looking at issues of food security, but maybe it would be important to just really define what food security is and its impact on health and nutrition. So when we talk of food and nutrition security, we're referring to a situation where all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food to meet their dietary needs. And of course, looking at the preferences of food as well, just to be able to meet the needs for a healthy living. So how does food and nutrition affect health and nutrition? When there's poor access to quality food, this has different impacts on health. And here we're looking at maternal and child health. Poor nutrition in a mother would most probably result to low birth weight or poor pregnancy outcomes. One among them is low birth weight. We talk of issues of stunting among children under the age of 5. We are also looking at risks of obesity and overweight later on in life due to inadequate or poor access of quality food. So we can actually say that food security, that is availability, access, can actually affect health and nutrition of any population. So how does climate change affect food security? So we all know that as the weather patterns become more unpredictable, farmers have really been struggling to achieve a good crop yield. And last year, the past few years, we've experienced a period of drought, and most households were not able to achieve their recommended dietary allowances due to either the cost of food going up, the accessibility of food, and majorly affected by issues of production. So when the weather patterns change, farmers who mostly rely on rain-fed agriculture are not able to meet the quantities or the quality of food that is required. So one of the things that we look at in Nakuru, we greatly rely on agriculture as a main method of food production. So various technologies, of course, have been adapted just to be able to mitigate the issues of climate change when it comes to nutrition and food security. Next, please. So, as I said, USA Tujenge Jamii is a project that supports reproductive, maternal, neonatal, adolescent, child health. And we collaborate with the county government just to be able to strengthen some of the strategies that address nutrition, maternal and child nutrition. One among them is what we call the Baby-Friendly Community Initiative. And this is a strategy that looks at supporting, protecting, and promoting breastfeeding, appropriate complementary feeding practices, and of course looking at maternal and child health indicators. So we are supporting the county just to look at the different pockets that have main issues on malnutrition. So we started by looking at the county-wide data, where we're able to identify the cases, the increased cases of malnutrition. That is the age group of 0 to 59 months. So we narrowed down to specific sub-counties whereby we started implementing the strategy, and one among them was Nakuru East. So we looked at facility level data, and we're looking at severe admissions on severe acute malnutrition among the children. But we were more interested in 0 to 23 months. Why 0 to 23 months? This is a period where we call the critical window, period of opportunity. So after identifying the households, we had trainings for community health volunteers, healthcare workers, and community health extension workers. We took them through the module. This is a module that covers about 8 topics. One among them is on agri-nutrition or household food security. So we enroll the households that have children who are malnourished to the support groups. So they have monthly support group meetings whereby different topics are discussed. And one among them, of course, is the issues of food security. One of the characteristics that all these particular households had that have children undernourished was they were not able to meet their recommended dietary allowances, so which means these were households that were food insecure. So we set up, one of the recommendations was the setting up of model kitchen gardens at the community level. And these are centers, we have community resource centers, so where the community members are able to come and just learn on the basic technologies on house gardening. Something that I didn't mention, one thing about this unique population is it's within the slum area. So the slum has so many challenges. Talk of water hygiene and sanitation, we talk of high diarrheal cases among children, talk of teenage pregnancies, crime rates among this population. So there's so many factors that are actually contributing to poor child care practices. So the replication of the model kitchen gardens was done at the community level, at the household level. So we have the vertical bags that some of them adapted. We also have ground gardening, use of different simple materials like cement bags, broken buckets, and all this, they're able to adapt the same. So on monthly basis, the households are visited, so we monitor the nutritional status of the children by conducting growth monitoring, the weight, and also the mid-upper arm circumference, just to be able to check whether there's any progress among them. Next, please. So what were some of our results? We were able to achieve dietary diversification, and here we're looking at consumption of essential nutrients, that is the quality of the food, and also the different micronutrients of interest that normally malnourished children or households suffer from. So most of them were able to adopt growing of different crops vitamin A-rich vegetables, among others, and other nutrients and other spices within the household. So we reached about 3,400 caregivers. This is a program that is still ongoing. And also the support groups were able to be established, and on a monthly basis, these are specific indicators that are monitored. More than 50% of the households have embraced the kitchen gardening technology, and even during the drought period, quite a number of them were still able to sustain their gardens, because we also taught them on how do we recycle water, for example. When there's inadequate water supply, how do you recycle your water that you're using for rinsing maybe clothes or your dishes, and you're still able to purify the water and use it to water your small garden. We also have reported cases of reduced malnutrition, at least by 30%, over a period of 8 months among that population that we had identified within that particular ward. Next, please. So in conclusion, what are we saying? Understanding the pathway linking climate change and nutrition becomes very critical for developing effective interventions to ensure household food security is achieved. So these are just some of the pictures that display some of the things that, some of the, as in the process that we have been able to engage in, just to be able to support these particular households to achieve good food security. Thank you very much.
Yes, that is very innovative. So I'm sure, fellow colleagues, you can even grow your vegetables, your onions, anywhere in the backyard of your house, or if you live in an apartment, I think you can create space somewhere on your veranda. Thank you so much. A round of applause for her. Thank you. Now, our next, again, as I said, keep your questions until the end of the session. Our next speakers, and they are listed as 2, Assumpta Nentume and Festus Juguna. I hope you are here. I don't have your profiles here, but you are going to be talking on evaluating the clinical impact and the cost effectiveness of a wireless vital sign monitor for hospitalized newborns in Kenya. I'll give you a minute to introduce yourself so that the audience can know who you are.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I know the afternoon are a bit dull, so I'll be as brief as possible. My name is Lea Mokuhe. I am a research clinician and coordinator at AMPAS, and I'll be doing this presentation on behalf of Assumpta Nentume and Dr. Festus Juguna, who are the principal investigators together with Dr. Audrey Chepkemoi.
Wait, you can tell us something as you wait.
So I'm requesting an additional 2 minutes for them.
Yeah, you could. Once it starts, it's 10.
Okay, as they sort that out, I think I can just be giving you a brief introduction. So it's a collaboration with Neopenda PBC in evaluating the clinical impact of wireless vital sign monitor called NeoGuard in hospitalized newborns in Kenya. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, just a brief introduction and share some statistics regarding the same. So as we all know, the first 28 days of life are the most vulnerable time of child survival. And according to a UN report, globally, 2.3 children died in the first month of life in 2021. That is approximately 6,400 neonatal deaths every day. That's quite a huge number. So our main concern is the WHO target in SDG 3.2, neonatal and child mortality. And the target is by 2030, we reduce the neonatal deaths to about 12 per 1,000 live births, down from 18 to per 1,000 live births. And for children under the age of 5 to 25 per 1,000 live births. Okay, just a brief introduction. So regionally, Sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia account for almost all these deaths, estimated at 27 and 23 deaths per 1,000 live births, respectively, in 2021. The neonatal mortality rate in Kenya in 2019 was 21 per 1,000 live births, which is lower than the African region, but still higher than the global rate of 18 deaths per 1,000 live births. So according to WHO, some of the common causes of neonatal death include prematurity, intrapartum complications such as birth asphyxia, infections which often lead to sepsis, birth defects, and the list continues. So the impact of climate change has been identified as the biggest global health threat in the 21st century, with immediate harm to in early life and significant lifelong consequences. And these populations who are already in low resource setups also experience these extreme weather conditions, and they also end up having a high burden disease from environmental exposures and limited access to high quality clinical care. So the images. So the cycle image is just summarizing that slide. So we'll head over to the next slide. Okay, just the problem. I'll skip the first point because it's a repetition of the previous slides. Some of the prevailing challenges that lead to the reduction of neonatal mortality include shortage of healthcare workforce, limited funding for health, climate change, and limited infrastructure and equipment for essential newborn care. Increasing the coverage of optimal supportive care such as continuous monitoring will decrease these deaths by an estimated 41 to 72% worldwide. So this is just an image showing traditional medical equipment that has been dumped somewhere outside, which were not designed for emerging markets. So it's just an image of medical equipment that's no longer in use in our facilities. So on to the main agenda of this presentation, I'll be introducing the NeoGuard device. It is a wireless vital sign monitor, and it's the one with the green band at the top left, and it's monitors for the 4 main vital signs. There is pulse rate, oxygen saturation, which is the SpO2, respiratory rate, and temperature. So on the dashboard there, you can only see 8 newborns being monitored, but one tablet can monitor up to 15 children. And the tablets the devices come in packs of 10 with one tablet as a package. Now just a package of 10 devices plus 1 tablet. So how does this device work? It's attached on the forehead, the band goes around the head and the device lands on the forehead. Okay, I only have 5 minutes. The device is attached to the forehead. The band goes around the head and the device ends up landing on the forehead. And there are 2 sensors behind the device. The processing is done, the communication is done via Bluetooth to the visualizing device, which is the tablet in this case. So the vital signs are displayed on the tablet in real time. The cardiac sync can be done within the range of either 15 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on the settings that you put on the device, which is quite good compared to the standard of care, which is 4-hourly monitoring in the wards. So on the study overview, this is an ongoing study in MTRH, in the NBU of Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. We started last year in April 2022, and we'll be concluding it in late June next month. So the methods that we've been using, this is an interrupted time series. I'll just go to the diagram below. It's divided into 2. There's the pre-intervention period and the post-intervention period. In the pre-intervention period, the NeoGuard device was not introduced. It was only the standard of care that's already available in the NBU. For the post-intervention period, from the 34th week onwards, that's when we introduced the technology, and we'll be comparing the 2 phases because we'll be comparing the 2 phases, the complications and the outcome of the pre-intervention period, and the complications and outcomes of the newborns in the post-intervention period. So onto the main study objectives, there are 3. Number 1 is to evaluate the clinical impact of the NeoGuard. Number 2 is to assess the change in neonatal mortality between the pre and the post-intervention period, and also see if the device is cost-effective in the NBU. Number 3 is to assess the medium to long-term feasibility and sustainability of the device in the ward. So these are just 2 photos of the sensitization that we did in the NBU. The one on the left is the sensitization, the one on the right is the training that we did regarding how to use the NeoGuard technology in the ward. On the preliminary results, so far we have enrolled 2,633 out of a target of 3,000 newborns, representing 87%. So we are almost through. Demographically, 1,167 were female, and the mean age of all mothers giving birth in MTRH and outside of MTRH is, the ones who are referred to MTRH is 26 years old. Clinically, the mean gestation age is 36 weeks, and the mean birth weight is 2.4 kgs. These are just the statistics of the newborns being admitted in the NBU, not the general ones who are born or in MTRH. Okay, so the newborns monitored with NeoGuard have been admitted across 3 out of 8 subunits. That is the acute premature, the stable premature, and the HD. So overall, that 7 nurses have participated in the NeoGuard technology, which is takes me back to the first point of limited healthcare workers. So we do need this device for the nurses to work conveniently in the NBU. Nurses at the MTRH neonatal ward have logged up to date 6,085 hours of monitoring for the period of 5 months. We started in late last year, November 2022. So this is just a table summarizing the results and the hours of monitoring with the device. So from referring to the 3 objectives that we had, we hypothesized that the NeoGuard solution at the MTRH ward will be associated with a difference in detection of complications and the frequency of interventions due to early diagnosis of complications via the device, and there will be a difference in neonatal morbidity and mortality between the pre and the post-intervention period. We also hypothesized that NeoGuard at the MTRH neonatal ward will be cost-effective and feasible and sustainable for use in the medium to long-term use. Just a parting shot there. where you live should not determine whether you live. So whether you are in a first world country, third world country, everyone should have access to high quality healthcare. Just a list of some acknowledgements. Grand Challenges Africa, which is now known as Science for Africa, Neopenda Research and Development and the Technology Team for the device, and AMPA's study team led by Dr. Festus Njuguna and Dr. Audrey. So to access this presentation, you can Google Medical Learning Hub, search Neopenda at KMA 2023 event, and you'll get a 50% off on the newborn monitors. Just to mention that this device is already in the market, mostly in the private sector, but if you want more details about how to procure the device, kindly talk to Vivian, who is seated at the back. She can stand briefly and greet everyone. Yeah, you can look for her after the conference. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Another round of applause. I think you have presented your researchers very well. And any questions again, we leave it at the tail end of this session. I will move on to the next speaker, and he's not new to us. The next speaker will be Professor Sylvester Kimayo, who is not a stranger to all of us. He's the Executive Director of AMPATH Care and the Chief of Party of AMPATH Plus. Dr. Kimayo is charged with the daily running of AMPATH. He also lectures at Moi University and does rounds there at the main hospital, that is. He believes that part of the job description of AMPATH, a physician, regardless of the other roles you are involved in at AMPATH, is to see patients. So he leads by example. After graduating from medical school at the University of Nairobi, he spent 5 years at Moi University as a first-in-turn medical lecturer. And then he traveled to Indiana University for a short period to learn more about HIV and cardiology. And during that time, he and others created AMPATH to treat those with HIV. And AMPATH has now expanded. Today, AMPATH has now expanded into the areas of chronic diseases. And Dr. Kimayo is now, he wears a new hat, and he started now a cardiology clinic at AMPATH in 2008. He's going to talk about AMPATH, leading with care. You're welcome.
That's a wonderful introduction. I thank KMA for letting us partner as one of the lead sponsors of this conference, but also to share. I think life has been made a little easier for me. A number of things have already been said, so I will not belabor those ones. I'll just tell you a few others. For example, a number of years ago, Professor Bill Lorre, he's seated here, called me to his office after I finished internship. And he told me, "You're very good." Oh, I didn't know anybody could tell me I was very good. He said, "Can you do M.Med in internal medicine?" You know, I listened and I did, and I finished. When I finished, he traveled from Eldoret and told me, "Kimayo, you need to come to Eldoret. That's why I'm here." I followed. You know, sometimes life is like that. You are just half-stepping and hand-holding, and you reach where we are. I don't know for my other colleagues, do you do that, what Bill Lorre did to me? And I don't regret a bit the career I followed. Just to go just continue, please. Next. So, we have already been told by Professor Nyandiko what AMPAD is. It's an acronym. And we changed in 2008 to another acronym to remove HIV. Next. I want to tell you something we didn't tell you before. When Bill Lauren and Tim started the medical school in Eldoret, we had an innovative medical education. We didn't have long, big lecture halls. We had a group of students, about 6, and we mentored them. And then they went to the field on what we call community-based education and service. And so when we got, so this is just describing how COPS is so fundamental in AMPAD. In fact, I will summarize by saying, if you have a Moi graduate, you are lucky. Sometimes we get from Machakos and they tell us there are no Moi graduates this year. Where are they? Can you send us some for internship? And that's the reason. Next. So I just wanted to say that you saw the map for COPS and the map for AMPAD went to exactly Chulaimbo, Matayos, Mosoriot, where our students were going for COPS. And we partnered together to create the HIV clinics. Or literally, we returned to the community that supported our students by offering HIV care. Those days, this was important. The prices for ARVs were so expensive. Next. And around that time, we already wrote detailed academic institutions linking access to treatment and prevention. That was our first publication on AMPAD. Next. And later on, 7 years later, we had another one responding to the HIV pandemic, the power of an academic medical partnership. I'm actually speaking to the medical schools, the KUTTRH, Maseno, and others partnering with the community for treatment. That is the model. Next. And this is here, we brought all USAID funded partners and their AORs or their activity managers to benchmark at AMPAD how to do this thing. Next. And this is the secret. We formed AMPAD in 2001 to put ourselves in a powerful position to compete for outside funding, outside the university, outside the hospital, outside government. In 1988, we opened a US dollar account and a Kenya shilling account separate from our institutions. And don't worry about that. This is showing our partners. Next. The Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, the MU, and our North American colleagues, a bunch of our North American colleagues, those who were shown yesterday. Next. Now, this is what has happened. This is new. I thought I was doing 25 minutes, so I was doing 10. I'll finish in 5 minutes, don't worry. But you've given me 25 minutes, but I'll finish. So we have gone global. So we have an AMPAD model in Ghana, in Mexico, and Nepal. And so we are doing exactly the same as we do in Eldoret in those countries. Next. 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 You're going back. Next. Next. Okay. Stop there for a minute. These are some of my friends when we started AMPAD, home-based counseling and testing. You all recognize my friend on the extreme right, the former Prime Minister, and of course Professor Nyong'o. Next. 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 Now, this is where AMPAD touches. In whatever program we have, from Turkana to Migori, in terms of programs that we run. And most in Migori and Turkana, we are their laboratory for CD4, viral load, EID, and so on. those particular, there are not many labs in Kenya that do that, but that region. Next. This is our current USAID funded programs, adding to $120 million for the next 5 years, ending 2026. These are the same. The USAID for the child in Kisumu, headquartered in Kisumu, Uzima in the North Rift, and Busia Bungoma, which is called Umisha. So these are 3 USAID programs of about $120 million for 5 years that AMFAT runs. But I already showed there are many other programs that we run. Next. This is, since inception, USAID has given us $340 million to do HIV in the Western Kenya region. Next. And this is our strength. How many more minutes? So, what is our strength? Is the academic partnerships. It's having EMR. It is having institutional and GOK support. It's having our own financial management system and one central nervous system and tyranny of numbers. Thank you. Next. And these are our challenges. But remember, research follows care. So, next. These are some of my bigger challenges. Tax is one of them. Okay, thank you very much. The nice lady has added me a few more minutes. Thank you very much. But I will still finish. Public procurement. Being in the academy, in Moi University, in JOST, and others, we have a problem. We have to do public procurement. Taxes. I get a lot of donations, including test kits. The Kenyan government taxes it so hard that we stopped receiving them. Licenses for some of our visiting professors, legal, institutional space, and we have a new one, which is a double-edged sword. It's called Journey to Self-Reliance. We're supposed to hand over to the counties because they have grown up so that they take over. Now, this is, I was reading a book here by Julia Keller, where as animals, we should not be, sometimes we need to change direction. If it doesn't work, patience is not always the optimal way. Look at this gentleman. He's been so patient, fishing on the wrong side. He just needed to turn to the other side. That's how we run programs. If it doesn't work, quickly change and go to something else. Next. We do integration now, not just HIV as was said, but see how we are integrating with the other diseases at the beginning. We don't put them inside the car, we put them there, and then we move together. Hypertension, diabetes, and so on. They have no funding. We have enough funding in HIV, but this is changing. Next. This is this morning's COP23 is our country operational plan. The new funding for HIV will be in those strategic pillars. And next, this again is what we saw. These are the counties that have done 95, 95, 95, including Nyamira and Nyandarua. These ones have done, just managed 90. This is the UNAIDS 95, 95. And these are the poor ones. They have not attained 90, 90, 90. And the new funding will give targets to each one. Those who have, even more shall be added. Next. Next. I want to show these 3 slides to get next. Next. This is our care. When we increase care, the first one, we actually begin getting more publications, and we get research dollars. So the more we do care, that's why we lead with care, the more publications just follow us, and the more dollars for research for Professor Nyandiko follow us. It is no-brainer. The more patients we have under treatment, the more publications we get to do, and the more research dollars we get. That's leading with care. And there is data for that. Next. This is our UHC effort in Busia next. And this is again talking about integration next. We do farming also, by the way, next. And support our clients in income generation next. This is a recent meeting with our outgoing NHIF CEO of a project we are doing in both Uasin Gishu and Busia on UHC, together with my CEO of MTRH, my mentor. And I think that's the last slide. Go to the last one, so that I say there is no better time to combine our efforts than now. Team, together, everyone achieves more. I almost did 10 minutes. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sylvester, for that very interesting talk. In fact, by the way, I come from near there. It is one of the county where you have a lot of projects, and you are telling me about tyranny of numbers. I looked very carefully. I missed my county. I don't know whether it was a mistake, but we'll look into that later. Another round of applause for him. Thank you very much. How many of us are 100 years or above? Oh, you are. 100 years. Impressive. My neighbor just turned 102 years in the rural area, and that's very impressive. Today, or around this time, EMJ has turned 100 years, and I think that's one of the celebrations we are actually making. It's a landmark, and as you know, all of you, EMJ has been our mouthpiece actually for Kenya and the region around here, and even Africa. I know at one time it was going down, but I think today you can testify that it is going up now, and you need to support it with all these researches you are doing. You should support EMJ so that we become internationally renowned again. And I thank Professor Ore, who actually tirelessly worked very hard in those years to bring up EMJ. Now, our next speakers here are two, and that's why I'm introducing the 100 years of EMJ. The first one is the chairman of EMJ. And EMJ, as you all know, is being run by EMJ Publishing Company, which is part of KMN, or a wing of KMN. So the chairman is a lecturer at the Faculty of Health Sciences and the Tropical Institute of Community Health and Development at the Great Lakes University in Kisumu. He is also a team leader of health system strengthening for Kenya National Training Mechanism called Funzo Kenya Project. He has extensive clinical and training experience, having worked as a medical officer in the Ministry of Health at National Referral Hospital and the provincial hospitals and district hospitals for over 8 years. Subsequently, he also worked as institutional resident, specialist in Aga Khan Hospital, and later as a lecturer at the Tropical Institute of Community Health and Development. He has also been Dean Faculty of Health Sciences and Associate Professor in the Faculty of Health Sciences, the Great Lakes University in Kisumu. He has served in several institutional boards, and he is a long chairman now of the Kenya Medical Association. He has served also as chairman of the regional chairman of the Kenya Medical Association and a member of the Kenya Obstetric and the Gynecological Society. He is a member of the International Union of Health Promotion and Education. Currently, he has a mandate of IntraHealth to support technical leadership in expanding medical training in Kenya through building capacity for pre-service training and strengthening in-service training and strengthening training institutions and regulatory bodies. That is Professor Stephen Okeyo, and he will be also coupled with Paul Yonga, and Paul Yonga is a consultant infectionologist and tropical travel medicine specialist and a clinical epidemiologist. Paul is, of course, he is also trained by ICAO in aviation medicine with clinical and research expertise in tropical and travel medicine and global health security, both at adult and adolescent vaccinology, critical care infectious disease also, and diagnostic and international thoracic something in infectious disease, and transplant and immunocompromised infectious disease, diagnostic and therapeutic bronchoscopy and thoracoscopy, and the HIV medicine diagnostic and the therapeutic high-resolution endoscopy, and microbial stewardship and drug-resistant infections and outbreak infections and the cardiopulmonary exercise testing. He is also involved in several intervention trials and observational studies in infectious disease and associated diseases. So this is Paul and this is Stephen. The floor is now yours. I'm glad to congratulate you for the work you have done at EMJ, the EMJ where I'm also a member of the board. It has been a hard work, and everybody there has been working very hard. And with the support of KMA and yourselves, I think we can make it even better in the coming years. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Kimoli. Umenipa uzito ambao sikuwa najua niko nayo. But once in a while, you guys, you review a document on your computer, and then you want to send the revised document. And in the end, you find you've actually sent the whole document. And when you use track changes, you find you've actually sent it with glaring track changes remarks. That CV I was given ni ya zamani. Siku hizi nafanya kazi na Uzima University. Yeah. But I'm glad to be here. When we were told that we were going to celebrate, when we came to the harsh reality that we are going to celebrate 100 years, I thought that it is just wise to look at what we have been doing as a publication and assess ourselves whether we have been relevant in this century, so that as we move forward, we continue to be relevant, and that way we are able to add value to the communities that we serve. So we did, and we presented to KMA leadership this proposal to do a review of publications for this millennium. So that is what I'm going to present today. We did it actually in two phases. We had 3 objectives, and we did it in 2 phases. We haven't finished phase 2. We're just finishing phase 1. So treat this as preliminary results, please. Thank you. basic outline we have used. By way of introduction, EMJ was established in 1923. At that time, the purpose was to keep the British medical officers who were posted to Kenya updated. And subsequently, it was expanded to East Africa region, and a little bit later on, it was expanded to Southern Africa and Southern Rhodesia, what is now Zimbabwe. Next. Dr. Obongi did a review of evolution of East African Medical Journal at 75 years, and it's a rich document that is available online for you to read. And so we are thinking that we can add on to that evolution with this intersection of our steps. So basically we were to describe the coverage of specialization areas in the journal, the regional spread of authorship, and metrics of research output. It was a cross-sectional study. I have described the phases that we used. We have submitted it for ethical review. Next. By way of results, so far we have reviewed about 1,300 articles in 282 volumes. And as expected, we found out the majority of publications were from Kenya. But following us very closely, Kenya was Ghana, not Ghana, Nigeria, and then our neighbors, Uganda and Tanzania. And then a good number of other countries in Africa, even outside Africa, have submitted publication in the East African Medical Journal. The graphic after that will, let's see the graphic. Yes, so this is a graphic display of the publications in the East African Medical Journal. Next. By way of specialties that are published, specializations that are published in the journal, medicine, internal medicine leads, followed by public health. This was surprising to me, but this is so far what we have found. The next slide is a graphic display of that. But in summary, the whole breadth of specializations are covered in East African Medical Journal. Next. This is the AJOL that we are asked in. Does this go to the next? So this is we are able to talk about the readership and the downloads differently. If you could go to that link. Go to this link. Just bear with me a little as we get that link. I thought this is a wonderful intervention that AJOL has done for us in form of infographics. And you are able to scan globally and see who is reading our articles. It's not coming. Slowly, slowly, slowly. You are able to tell who is, how many are reading our articles and how many are downloading our articles. So, Professor Kemoli and Professor Mwanda, in terms of us moving forward and increasing the numbers, we need to look at this and see how we can strategize and reach where the readership and downloads are low from a business point of view. Come in at full. How many minutes do I have? 0. I have 3 minutes, sir. Okay. So we are if you click, look there and click, I think they did April 2023. Just click April 2023. Down here. Right? Click. And then scroll up here. And if you move the cursor over, you can see those numbers. On average, over a year period, you see that the readership picks up towards the end of the year. And below there is the come down. Again, so different ways of telling us about our readership and our downloads and where we need to put more effort. You can go back to the slide. So that happens for every month of the publication. African Journal Online is able to give us that information. The duration of the editorial process, our editor-in-chief was with us, but he has to travel abroad, so he isn't here to present with us, but he would tell you that our editorial process is just in keeping with international standards, about 2 to 7 weeks. And a systematic review, a global systematic review, has clearly indicated that our review process is just probably, on average, better than most of the other publications. Next. When we do finish with phase 2, it will be this may change a little bit, but it will become a lot more obvious. We hope that in the next 2 or 3 months, we will have it ready and we'll publish it in the East African Medical Journal supplement, centenary supplement. The impact score for East African Medical Journal is not anything to write home about, but when you are in recovery, the relative numbers are probably better than the absolute number. And this statement, you can find it online, clearly indicates, yes, that we don't have a very rosy score, but over time we are improving. And that is the message that we want to give. We have been through a downturn, but we are on the upturn now. Next. Some of this we will talk about in the course of reminiscing during the gala dinner. So I will not bother you too much with details, just be aware that the board of directors as well as the board of editors, we are working to get East African Medical Journal to its glory past and even surpass it. Yes. By conclusion, I say we are continuing to disseminate, we are continuing to do what our mandate tells us to do. And the board is working together with the board of directors and the editors. We are working in tandem to make that realization get to be achieved. There is need for us to promote increased leadership based on the infographics that I showed. And we are asking you as stakeholders to walk through this with us. And I'm glad, Sylvester, that your team is very supportive of this. Thank you. Shukran.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, if you have anything to ask or inquire from EMJ personnel or the chair, then you'll have an opportunity at the tail end to do so. Or when you go for the gala dinner, you can interact with the chair or any member of the board and ask your question on publications. Our next speaker will be from Brona Technologies Limited. There are, of course, people who are supporting us, and I'm calling upon Engineer Okello, if he's here, to come and give a short presentation on the contribution. He's giving a presentation on advancement in digital radiography and how mobile and portable X-ray is changing the landscape of imaging. Yeah, you are welcome. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Again, I'm here to represent Medix, and Rowena is one of our partners, as I mentioned in the morning, that we are partnering with in the segment of radiology. So I'll invite the Rowena representative who is here to give a very short presentation on digital X-ray. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm standing here on behalf of Rowena Technologies Limited. This is one of the companies that has really advanced the sector of radiology and fluoroscopy, in that they have really improved it from the analog system to now the fully digital system. Because of time, I don't want to take a lot of time, but I will just request to take us through a few of our products before I do a short presentation of our product, which is right before us here. So we just help me go to the products. So in Rowena, we have got different ranges of products. That is the one for radiography and fluoroscopy. And right before the screen there, you can see there is a model called Beetle 06 series. So these are one of the high technology X-ray machines that have been invented to cope up with the now situation that we are in now. Like if I may just speak about the Beetle one, just go back. The Beetle series, these are the portable and also the mobile X-ray machine where you can move with it everywhere. And again, it also can be used in every place. It can be used in the hospital setup. It can be used in the emergency areas. It can also be used in the end use. It can also be used in the the wards where maybe the patient cannot be able to move to the radiology department. So also we have got another type of mobile, another series of mobile X-ray. We have got mobile sparkler and also mobile Coupler. These are mobile X-ray machines. They are fully digital. They have got an AI, the artificial intelligence, whereby you can do like every kind of the work, and also they also ensure accuracy in diagnostic, in doing the diagnostic. Another one. That one is also a portable mobile X-ray machine. We have got also the SIAM Compact X500. This is one of the advanced fully digital SIAM machine that is being used by the orthopedics, and it can also it's also being used in the theater. So it comes with the you can see there the two monitors, the one for the real time and another one can be used whenever you want to do the story. Can we go to next? So also we have got another series of X-ray machine. That is the Parfoc series. Well, this is the Parfoc 5500. the for 5,500. So this is you can see that as from the one from the Sailing Mountain, fully digital, and also Perform 3,000. These are 300 mA X-ray machine. So there is also Perform 3,000A. They also work the same, but this one is the simplified one, Perform 3,000A economy. We have got also the YWF series. This is the dynamic X-ray machine. It can be used for maybe you don't have the. It can be used for both whenever for both the bed and also the bed and also for chest backing. So just to conclude, I want to just do a simple presentation here on the machine. If you can just allow 1 minute. Just 1 minute. So before us here, we have got a portable digital X-ray machine. This machine is a foldable X-ray machine, whereby you can be able to move with it everywhere and wherever you want to go and use it. And also it has got an inbuilt battery, whereby if maybe there is no any power, a place where you are there is no power, you can also use that battery instead. So it's also user friendly. Anybody can be able to use it because that's got what it's called an APR, automatic or anatomical programmable radiography, whereby everything has been set according to the to the body parts. So thank you so much for that short moment of presentation. We are looking forward to see you all there at our booth. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So if you have any inquiries, you can visit their booths. They are right here and inquire more about the machines. Our next presenter is going to present on genetic engineering for health and agriculture. It's going to be Professor Richard Odwor. And Richard Odwor has expertise in molecular biology and biochemistry and drug discovery, forensic sciences, and organizational development and science communication. His research interest is in the area of technology, of course, that include genetic engineering to improve crop yield and enhance biomass for biocommodities, as well as improving local medicinal plants for increased production of the therapeutic secondary metabolites. Is Dr. Richard Odwor here? Oh, it's coming online. it taking?
Okay.
Saying go on.
Okay, in that case then, my name is Richard Edward. There's an echo coming from your end. Richard Edward, I am the Acting Registrar of Research at Kenyatta University, and I will also chair Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium. And this presentation is usually a longer presentation, but I'm aware of the time constraints that we have. Of particular interest for me here is that I have a background in molecular and cell biology, genetic engineering. I did my postdoctoral or working for Pfizer in drug discovery. So I'm a little privileged to talk both the drug discovery and food security. Now, the reason why this presentation is important for me is because I'm privileged now to be amongst medics and people who understand these things. It's not very clear for me how you have managed as medics to prescribe Zima, to prescribe the Gusha, the Elilaso, to prescribe the insulin, and even recently the COVID, the RNA COVID vaccine. Because all these things are GMO related. We have instances where the tumor necrotic factors, the interleukins, kinases, taxols, and many others, work is currently ongoing to ensure that we actually benefit from this new technology. But the reason why I want to trigger discussion is that how have doctors succeeded in still prescribing this GMO stuff without necessarily actually triggering a debate around them? Is it because food security is not as trendy as the disease? These are the questions that I want you to help us understand, those who are developing GMOs in this country, to at least get to know. So it's a discussion, because every time when we start the GMO debate and genetic engineering for food security, we are told to go organic. And going organic means that we should go, really, if we really mean our organicness of things, then we should go to hunters and gatherers, because that is when things are organic. And we should still using this raw material from the grasses and everything, really, to be making our homes. But that's not the case. So this is the discussion that I want us to have. And quickly I'm reminded of this man called Isaac Newton, who actually said his third law of motion is that action and reaction are equal and opposite. Meaning, because I'm talking now, there are people who are silent somewhere so that there is equilibrium. And the same is what happens in the world. If you look at that slide, you'll find that there are people who are hungry, but there, to the right, there is one child who is getting more than enough. On the left, there are cows that are dying because of drought. On the right, you will see a lot more of a very overfed sort of, livestock. And it doesn't end there. While we have right now floods somewhere in Nyando, and previously there were floods in Nigeria, but we were suffering from drought in this country. It's the same thing that we see when it gets to crops. Look at maize drying because of drought. But look at this grass. This is called Xerophyta viscosa. Its other name is a restriction plant. It is growing between the both. And both of them are plants and they are grasses, so both of them are monocots. That is what actually turns us on as researchers in this area, to find out what is this thing that is in this grass that is not in this maize that we can tweak for purposes of improving food security. Look at rice, for instance, only gives us carbohydrates. But then it is important to find out what is it, this thing that is in beans that actually makes its nucleotide to be able to express and give you proteins. In the event that we can't get beans, then we should be able to pick that sequence, insert it into maize, target it to the kernels, and we still have our rice or maize that at least has proteins. Striga, why should Striga really be targeting our maize and so on? Why not sisal? If they were targeting sisal, we wouldn't mind. Why are pests finding our tubers very interesting and diseases are here? So when you put that together and you complex that together with the fact that aflatoxin, which is the fungi that leads to the aflatoxin, and you look at the maize lethal necrotic disease that also recently cleared maize in Rift Valley, then we have a question to answer. Because when you ask me, look at cassava, for instance. When you find tubers of cassava that are big as that, the likelihood that they will be having a higher level of cyanide is high. And cyanide is just a pathway. It's the numbering pathway. My initial training was triple biochemistry. So the numbering pathway, we only need the committed step in that pathway to silence through RNA silencing. And then the cassava brown streak disease is also dealt with. And these are things that we are doing here at Kenyatta University. So if you listen to that challenge, and then you get to realize that at 3 p.m. today, I bothered to check what is the current world population. This is today at 3 p.m. Those are the number of deaths, those are the number of births, and of course that's the current population. If you realize that the climate is changing, and I'm very happy that the theme for this particular conference was touching on climate change, then you cannot keep quiet when you are living in a continent where 65% of our labor is depending on agriculture. Farmers are aging, and the youth want to Twitter fertilizers. They don't want to go to make their hands dirty. So these things are things that are making us start thinking, what do we do as molecular biologists? And that is why we are saying, when we have noticed and recognized that there has been a lot of revolution up to the last slide, which is mechanization, it doesn't matter what tractor you're using to plow. If your seed is drought susceptible or it is disease susceptible. So we need, even as we're doing mechanization, we also need to start thinking about the seeds that will overcome certain constraints that we have. And that is where we come in as molecular biologists. There's nothing more superior than just, there's nothing that you need to do other than understanding that everything that is alive in the genome just has the 4 letters, the ATGC, and occasionally you can replace the T with a U. But the variation that we see in normal things that are living is the sequence and the size of it. And of course, I know the basic way I can illustrate this is that we view the genome just as the alphabet. The alphabet, there are 26, and within those alphabets, you can write your name from it. The alphabets, you can actually use that alphabet to write a letter that will be for promotion, and therefore there will be jubilation, or it can also be a sucking letter, and that comes from the same alphabet. So it is true that the intention of using the alphabet needs to be regulated, and that is why we have a regulatory authority, that the moment we start talking about the genome, then we need it to be regulated. That was already contemplated a while ago. It is the same thing that we see in the central dogma, which I don't want to go seriously deep on, other than getting to know from the DNA to translation, to transcription, to translation, to the proteins, are things that we have now sufficient grasp on. And for my simplistic analogy of how to illustrate how the central dogma behaves, is that look at the central dogma as a CD on the lower panel. That CD has information, it has music in there, but even if you put it on your ears, you won't hear anything. You have to put it in the nets, in the stereo, on the radio, for the radio to interpret the content of that CD. And that radio must be able to interpret and give you music. And it's not enough to give you music. That music needs to be actually the kind of music that you envisage. Meaning now the dancing is now the trade. And now the output, which is now the music, if you actually realize that that music actually was reggae and you are expecting a gospel music, where do you start? You go back to your original, CD and figure out, did I pick the right one? Is it scratched? Is it? You can't blame the radio for that because we know where it all starts. So this is just to illustrate how different areas within the central government we can intervene to make sure that we feed our people or we give proper health care to our people. And the question would be, and I have heard a lot of this, is that, are we ready as a country? Countries that have adopted genetically modified foods and all that in the West only ask themselves 5 questions, if not 4. Do we have the human capital? Do we have a regulatory system just in case things go wrong? Do we have an appeals board just in case we are not happy with what the appeals, the regulatory authority has done? Do we have a government goodwill? And of course, we have research facilities. And these are the questions that we all need to ask. And once we are settled with this, then we go ahead and start appreciating science. Yes, regulatory authority exists for the last 13 years. In 2010, the Biosafety Act 2009 actually established National Biosafety Authority, whose CEOs actually have been doctor, PhD holders, and even the current CEO right now, Mugera, is a PhD holder, very deep in this matter. And it will interest us to appreciate that the Biosafety Act 2009 that established NBA, which is the National Biosafety Authority, has 4 operationalizing, regulations. So whoever is complaining, what are we people doing in the lab? That regulation, biosafety contained use regulation, governs that. If somebody feels that, hey, what about when you release them from the lab to the field? Again, there is a regulation, which is the Biosafety Environmental Release Regulation 2011. And if you say, we don't want these things to pass through our country, probably Kenya has banned, but Uganda probably hasn't. So there must be also another regulation, a third one, to take care of transit, importation, and everything else. And then people are saying, hey, I need to know whether this is a GMO or not. This was already contemplated, and in 2012, the biosafety labeling regulation was enacted. And therefore, as it is right now, all the GMOs that come to this country or that we are developing in the lab must be labeled. So sometimes we don't understand as biotechnologists who are doing these things in the country what is really going on. And NBA doesn't work alone. It works with all those number of regulatory agencies, including NEMA and PCP. And therefore, just for purposes of institution, because people will be asking, do we have even labs in this country that can do this GM thing? This is the most basic science that I don't understand why as a country we're taking so long, 40-year-old technology, and we're still debating whether it's good or not. Kenyatta University in 2005 had already actually commissioned a biosafety laboratory. From 2000, I did part of my master's in this lab. In Rebecca, they are doing this. Calro, they are doing ECP. These things are already here. In Rebecca, which is now there's no Becca anymore. They are dealing with cassava, bananas, and plantain. And in ECP, that's the latest baby in the block. It's dealing with Drosophila, just to understand how to manipulate, animal cells. And of course, Calro is deep in BT maize and virus-resistant cassava. And Kenyatta University has a plant transformation laboratory. This was the first in this country. And it's the only one in Eastern Central Africa in the university. There is no any other university in this country with about safety level 2 that does genetic engineering. So over time, these are some of the germplasm that we have actually indicated. This does not mean, by the way, get me correctly, this does not mean that other universities like University of Nairobi and other big universities don't do genetic engineering. They do. Only that anytime they want to do that, their researchers come to Kenyatta University, or they are in Rebecca, or they are in ECP, or they are in Calro. So the research in biotech is all over. But it can only be done in those 4 labs. And these are just the genes that we have over time actually transformed into the germplasm. I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty. Just to let you know that we have human capital. The faces that I'm showing you up now, the first one is from Tanzania, the second is from Ethiopia, and the third one is from Sudan. These are faces, these are students, these are our PhD students who graduated and came with their germplasm, we genetically engineered them for drought tolerance, and they left with them. While we are talking here about human capacity, we are building for the neighbors. We have trained Tanzanians, we have trained Ugandans, we have trained West Africans. South Africans are already in this land doing their stuff. But in this country, we are not believable at all. So it is pretty
Prof,
interesting
can you hear
what
us?
happens. And that is why I really want to listen to doctors talking and how did they manage to really break this thing down. That's the direction I'm headed. This Kenyans now, Jonathan was in Moi, Eric is Chuka University, Alan Jalemba was dealing with aftermath. And let me just explain something a little bit about aftermath. If we are able to actually keep our babies' gestation period for 9 months, and when they are born, we vaccinate them. We usually do vaccination because we are doubting that God never completed his work. If we are able to actually inject, the reason why we are not actually vaccinating maize is because in a plantation of 1 acre we have thousands of them. But the idea of antibody aftermath is where you identify these antibodies that can be, looking for the antigens when in case there is an attack from disease or from the pest. And I can unpack this part on your time. We have aflatoxin, for instance. This is already happening at Kenyatta University because aflatoxin is a product of a pathway, and we know it. We only need to RNA silence that.
Sorry about that. He wasn't even hearing us, so that's the problem. I think for my part here, I was just co-chairing now with her, so I think I will end here. But what I would like to leave you with is that I hope you have enjoyed the session. I hope you did not sleep during the session, but you can appreciate the many researches some of us are doing and what it can do to us in terms of bringing change in the way we do things clinically and in the way we do things as concerns policy. Let's keep up with the stamina so that we can continue to generate researches that are going to be useful to the development of this nation. And I congratulate all the people who gave their presentations. And I will leave this session for the co-chair here or chair here to continue with. And then you'll have a session to ask questions to the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Kemwali, for number one, your service towards the East Africa Medical Journal, and for being a wonderful co-chair. I made you do a lot of the work. So I have the pleasure of inviting the next speaker, who is a teacher of mine. Prof. Walter Mwanda is a professor of hematology and oncology at the University of Nairobi. He's a great educator and also a long-standing East Africa Medical Journal reviewer. Yes. So, Prof, karibu.
I think it's time to stand up and stretch. Yeah, that's why I'm the way I am. Just stand up. Just stand up. Stand up. Good. Have a chance. Have one this way, one that way, one this way, one that way, and stand up. Asante ni sana. I'll give you a very short resume of the KMA Ethics and Research Committee. My work is very simple. Just to tell you that these things exist. And the only reason why I'm here is just to remind ourselves, as time moves on, as we go digital, as we talk about bioethics, we should also talk about biosecurity. And that is probably the most important thing. So let's see if we can remind ourselves of what we are expected of as medical doctors. Disclaimer, no conflict of interest. The only interest I have is that we remind ourselves of the ethics that govern the handling of human beings, human life, and the opposite. Any opinion not consistent with your expectation, thank you, just smile. Basically, that's the outline. I won't take more than 10 minutes. Please, if it comes to 10 minutes, put up your hand and say you've gone beyond the ethics. The KMA Research Ethics and Standards Committee, that is your team. Those are the folks that keep oversight to make sure that premium nano-seal, in other words, first do no harm. The next, the basis of medical ethics emanates from the groups of Hippocratic Oath, Helsinki and the others, Code of Ethics and Consent. They actually came in that order. The responsibilities of medical ethics is to conduct is and belongs to the KMA members. Of course, also those who interact with them. With respect to the previous speaker, I hope you remember not to answer some of them, because that is exactly what the code says. Objectives to serve as a perpetual enhancement to remain steadfast as a professional, as a researcher, as a role model to society, as non-Athanasius contra mundo. In fact, Athanasius contra mundo, his actual name was Ignatius Loyola. He was the first person who opposed the Christian doctrine, and therefore he was referred to as Athanasius versus the world. That is Athanasius contra mundo. In medicine, there must never be, and there shouldn't be, in practice, Athanasius contra mundo. The clinical ethics are part of bioethics, and these are structured approach, ethical decision making in medicine. Ethical decision making. Once you make a diagnosis, it has to follow a particular ethical profile. Clinical ethics enables identification, understanding, and resolving of ethical issues. Applies ethical reasoning, irrespective of the circumstances, irrespective of time, irrespective of what we call that digitalization. It must fall within the ethics. In case we create a human being, I hope we realize somebody vacated his position as the inventor of artificial intelligence not so long ago, because they realized what it was going to do to medicine. Yes, next. The principles of beneficence, autonomy, non-maleficence, and justice. All the time, these four words must reverberate anytime we present ourselves as a professional, as a medical, as a doctor. Basis of ethics many years ago, but only recently there was an attempt to make a curriculum for medical ethics. Maybe the chair of KMA can tell you how far they have gone. So many things still remain the way they were. But of course it's time to train people on medical ethics. Go ahead. This is the forwarding remarks of the chairman of the Ethics and Research Committee of the KMA. Please, all of them are available. My only input is that they must be factored in to include environmental health, because environmental health it affects the human health. The human health is affected by all other health. Even the health of an insect affects the health of a human being. So we have realized. Next. And please do read what the KMA wants us to do, right? And bullet 3, this should include environmental health, consequences, and mitigating issues. So long as far as was quoted rightly, for every action there must be an equal and opposite. But the ethics require that that opposite must never affect the human being the way he or she was created. Again, members, these I'm just putting to you what the ethics obligations require you to be. Deal honestly with patients and colleagues and report the appropriate authorities. Those of us who practice unethically or incompetently or engage in fraud or deception. By the way, you know there is only one charge for unethical practice: negligence. And some of you will tell you what that means. Professional negligence is the highest charge. Any of these. I don't want to dwell on this, but I do want to emphasize that point. Number one, please, at all costs, not receive any financial benefits or incentives solely. I'm not imputing negative motives, but that's a point to emphasize for all of us. Recognize his or her important role in educating the public, but should use due caution in divulging discoveries or new techniques or treatment through non-professional ways. Next one. At the end of it all, ethically, we are required to respect the local, national, and international codes of ethics. Human beings are one. To colleagues, there's one thing that we realize there: communication. And communication should respect the patient's confidentiality. Next, behavior, again, is all an issue of integrity, accountability, respect for dignity, worthiness, equality, diversity, and privacy of all persons. Principles, none of them is superior to the other. At least some of you remember the commandments, the greatest of the commandments. But in medical ethics, all are the same, as we are the same before the Creator. Misconduct shall be handled in an ethical way, professional way. Next, disciplinary committee will behave the same way. Next, morals and ethics. These are not exactly the same. Some of our colleagues say that morals aside, the stomach first. You may say so, but you can say it to me, but don't say it in front of a patient. Oh, by the way, some of my colleagues should define for us patients. I should have defined the patient, but I'll leave it to you. Most of us, that is where we digress a little bit. The concept of a patient. A patient is not anybody on the street and falling and there is a doctor. No. Must accept you are sick, accept to get treatment, or do everything to get well. And whatever you are given at that time is what is believed to work. But we are allowed to get informed opinion. Informed opinion. That's the patient. Must fulfill those three. Once one has fulfilled those three, then ethics, professionalism take over. Right, next. Clinical ethics are really just about figuring out something is right or wrong. No, it isn't. It's an internal inbuilt response to a situation of a patient. Understanding, that is one of the most important things that we must always make sure. And as some people say, the patient is never wrong. The patient is always right. The issue is understanding. Then there are the laws. Interpretation, understanding aspects of law. In advanced directive status, healthcare includes, I think that was eloquently put by one of us here, not just treatment, but any service to maintain an individual's physical, social, psychological, and even spiritual well-being. For some reason, these are all now included in the doctor's sphere of management. If that was not so, they would have not done the last doctor's procedures in those who passed away somewhere. They would have just moved them aside. And the doctors to come in to say, yes, this is the cause of. And that has to be done again, procedurally, irrespective of other statements. Way forward. Complete adherence to the ethical requirements, including environmental health. Right? Yeah. What before? Pursuance of ethics as one health agenda that enhances environmental health should be our individual, collective, professional objective. Some references, and I thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for that overview of our KMA Ethics and Research Committee. I will invite our final scientific presentation, that is from Rose Betty. Rose will be focusing and sharing insights on our theme, on our sub-theme on climate change and food security. Rose, karibu.
Thank you so much. I'd like to say thank you to Care With You for this opportunity. It is an honor. So, I work for a project called Imarisha Jamii, USAID Imarisha Jamii. It is an integrated project that supports HIV care treatment, RMN care, and OVC services. And just to get us started, Turkana County is one of the poorest counties in Kenya, and we do experience challenges of insecurity and drought. It's a drought-prone zone area, and and we do experience challenges of poor coping mechanism, and that is the reason as to why we did some surveys on this particular topic on acute malnutrition among children under 5 years due to food insecurity. So this was our objective, to assess malnutrition among children under 5 years due to food insecurity in Turkana County. So a report was done in 2021 by Long Range Assessment that termed Turkana County as a crisis county, and it projected an emergency phase for in pastoral areas, and Turkana happens to be one of the pastoral counties. So we were able to do survey designs in 3 phases. That was in June 2021, June 2022, and January 2023. And the 2 things that we were looking at were hunger scale, and we were also looking at household dietary diversity, 24-hour call. And some of the findings from this particular study were most of the households, 80% of the households, were either severe, they had severe hunger or moderate hunger. And for that other objective that we were looking at on the food, on the households dietary diversity, we were able to find out that most of the households were not able to afford 3 food groups in a day. And we concluded the study by saying that malnutrition among children under 5 years is very high, which causes delay in development of children, and it also causes child poverty. So some of the recommendations that we did to this particular study were, we need to look for a strategy, a long-term strategy, whereby households will be able to, households involved in income-generating activities as a sustainable strategy. And some of the short-term strategies were like launching general food distribution from various stakeholders and partners, and also strengthening supply chain of nutrition commodities in health facilities for this particular age group, the under 5 age group. Thank you so much.
Rose, thank you for that brief presentation that highlights the impact of climate change on our nutrition, especially after our country has come from recently severe drought. So thank you for that presentation. I'm going to invite two of our partners to just say hello to us. I'll call Nelson Mandela. You're welcome to the stage. Nelson is from Strathmore Business School.
Thank you so much, and I'd like to appreciate KMA for allowing us this opportunity. The challenge of speaking almost the last is you get a crowd that is tired, so I won't take much of your time. Nelson is my name. I work at the business school, particularly handling PhD programs and the Masters in Healthcare Management program. So I was to speak about developing great African leaders, and if you could press on the screen. So I'll pick up from what the previous speaker is speaking in terms of mission and vision. And our mission is to develop ethical and influential leaders that positively impact society. So this I'm looking at ethics from a point of view. Next slides. These are our values. We have wisdom, excellence, trailblazing. We try to be wisdom, we try to have excellence, we try to be trailblazing across the history. Next slide. So our history, KMA, the East African Medical Journal, turned 100 this year. We turned 60 years old last year, and we're going to 61, so it's a milestone we are thinking of and working through. Next slide. In terms of climate change, this is our history in terms of where the business school started in 2005, 2008, we got a university charter, we got our regional academies last 2016, then 2017, the college international. Next slide. We are the first green business school in Africa, for those who've been at the business school. These are our global partners. We have Sauda Business School, we have ESA Business School in Spain, we have Harvard Business School, we have Lagos Business School, we also have quite a number. Our regional presence are in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Tanzania, and also we recently joined the Ethiopian market. So these are our programs that we have. We have executive education programs, we have open programs, we have public sector programs, custom solutions, we have entrepreneurial programs, we also have coaching, we have healthcare unit where we are here with you today. Next bit, we have our academic programs, which we start with the highest, which is our PhD in healthcare. We have PhD program in business and management. We have master's programs, quite a number for executives. There's one for commerce, there's one for agribusiness, there's one for development finance. You could realize our programs, we try to relay them and in the key critical areas. We also have custom solutions. Custom solutions, these are programs that we come to you and ask you what you want to be trained on, and we try to tailor-made it to your advantage. So that's the customization process that has been indicated. On day one here, you did advocacy and research. We do have research hubs, and at the business school, we have 8 in number, which are in realizing our research and innovation pillars. The business school has these 8 research hubs, which are the Strathmore Institute of Public Policy, we have Institute of Healthcare Management, we have the Africa Media Hub, we have the Center for Research, we have the Agri-Business, Strategy, Leadership, Accounting, Finance, Entrepreneurship and Innovation, and we also have Climate and Water Change. Basically for us, our topic is developing great African leaders, and I would like to talk about a few statistics that we did in the last year, whereby we trained over 2,000 executives, both in leadership and excellence programs, and they come from diverse backgrounds in terms of banking, service, healthcare, and we strive to help and develop great African leaders. We are rooted locally, but we are globally influential. Thank you so much. I would like to appreciate all the alumni in the room with us. Thank you so much for being with us, and also all those who would wish to join us, feel free to join our booth and look at our programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mandela. KMA values Strathmore Business School. We value our partnership. Fun fact is that a substantial percentage of the KMA leadership have been trained in Strathmore Business School. So I'd like to welcome Alex Manyasi. Alex is from APHRC to say hello. Alex, karibu.
Thank you very much. I'll do exactly that. I'll say hello. I had a presentation I wanted to make, but I think I'll do that in another forum on medical oxygen. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Alex, for allowing a short Q&A. I'll honor what Prof. Kemoli promised, and we'll have those with burning questions for any of the presenters we've had this afternoon, so that we can allow them to answer one or two questions. You can just raise your hand if you had any question that you noted down throughout the afternoon session.
Yeah, my question or request is about the NeoGuard, the neonatal cordless monitor. Just wanted to know the historical background and whether it has been used elsewhere, because the way MTRH put it, looks like they're the only ones using it, and it's not been disseminated elsewhere. My second one goes to Strathmore Business School, or the one who
Mandela, you can take that question as we look for Vivian of Neopenda or Assumpta. Vivian or Assumpta Neopenda, are you in the room?
Yes, thank you so much for that question, and I'd like to really appreciate you for that decisive question. And for us at the business school, yes, we try as much as possible, and looking at our mission and vision, we try to train ethical leaders and the like. So it's a work in progress. Yes, we are in the process of training quite a number of leaders in different spectras. It's training leaders in the ethics aspect is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing thing. So it's a process we are really trying, and we have quite a number of leaders, politicians in our spectra, and we hope that the few we have trained so far will impact and bring out the necessary ethical essence in what they do. Thank you.
I have a question. I think that there was a Dr. Mutiso here. Is he still here? The one who gave this particular representation on the electronic medical records that were tried in Nyeri and I believe Makueni. But something more generic than if he is not here. For those ones who are leading research institutions, and there's been excellent work presented here, like my colleague Professor Kimaio, where is the link between research and practice? How do we translate your research into actual practice? And is there a medium for it, or is it left to the individual researcher or institution to make that happen? If there is, give us some examples. The second question is to Strathmore, linked to a large extent to what Professor Mwanda has presented on ethics. Where do you get your role models from when you train people in this area, in leadership? I can imagine somebody young being taken to KEMSA and learning what people do at KEMSA, a young pharmacist and so on. Where do we get role models from in the health sector in Kenya right now? And finally, for those who are in research, what proportion of your work is published in the East African Medical Journal? And is there a deliberate push to make sure that we publish locally? Because I can already see from the heat map that was given by Professor Okeyo that probably there is more reading of our work in North America than in East Africa. And this may have something to do with who pays the piper, the people who sponsor our research, who want that that work is published in their own countries. And finally, that probably in these publications, very rarely are we the first author. We are the seventh author, and therefore do not have the say in where the publication is done. Thank you.
Maybe I also just add on a question to Mr. Tisa about that collection. Is CEOs aware of the Data Protection Act, and how this also will affect the electronic data monitoring administration, and above all, confidentiality and privacy? But I also like to partly answer Dr. Rogo's question of the use of data. You know, we are now practicing medicine through EBM, evidence-based medicine, which is you use guidelines, and guidelines are based on randomized clinical trials. So if your research is relevant to clinical practice and fits the RCT, you end up in being in guidelines, one or the other. Whatever you do it, whether you do it in Kenya or Africa. Another, the world is a global village, so there's very little, and a lot of information is now in guidelines. The old days of stacks and stacks of 57 medical journal books coming into your way in gathering bookshelves. I mean, that's in your bookshelf. And people used to, but the natives in Kenya never read them. So it made no difference whether you publish in East American Journal. The natives prefer to read the other one. So it's not just the publisher, but also the readers. There's a lot of mind change that you have to play around with. But as I say, a lot of research can be converted into evidence-based medicine practice through guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Rogo. The work you did to mold me in Ward 6, I really appreciate it. Just to respond, Professor Nyandiko presented on learning. So we have a deliberate of dissemination back to the counties where we work, the results of our research. But I think what I want to say more, most of the NASCOP guidelines influence based on our research a lot, and almost every part of the NASCOP HIV guidelines, and the recent National Hypertension or NCD guidelines, we put in a lot of our research findings. But what was more interesting, when we worked with the Ministry of Health in our World Bank project on hypertension, it quickly became policy. So if you really want to succeed, work with the policy makers and with the government and help them. You know, they ask the questions and we work together to get the answers. One of them is you asked, what fraction are in the EMJ of our publications? I just need a quick calculation. It's under 10%. And the other thing I wanted to say is 30 years ago, we did a deliberate effort. When we first started, our first authors were North American. Our first PIs were North American. But right now, in AMPAD, most of the publications are led by our own Kenyans. So we think, and we have even attracted some to come from elsewhere. I wanted to ask EMJ, why did you get your IREC approval in MTRH Moi University to do this research you did?
Okay, we'll allow Mandela to answer the one, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Rogo, for that question. For role models, I'll take it in this aspect, in terms of all the leaders that are in this room. You've been here for 3 days listening and engaging. We have this conference annually. We have different events, as we host as well, different events that we host and discuss these things. And take back to where we were with you last year, the East African Excel Store, where you see it was. We have had these discussions here, then what next? We normally just have these discussions, but we do not go back and actualize them. And who will actualize them? It's each one of us here, who's here, seated here, will go back to your institutions and empower your staff to do different programs, not in Strathmore alone, but in different aspects. So for role models, I would say we are all role models, and it's for us to come together and see how best we can empower the coming up generations by ensuring that they get this leadership training at an early and an advanced stage instead of training them when they are at their leadership stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandela. Prof, I will allow you to
There's a question.
The last one.
It's not a question, it's a response.
Okay.
There is a question you asked about where did we get our ethical approval. And it's a good opportunity for me to actually apologize. We were doing two studies at the same time. One is we were developing a proposal for senior doctors. That went through MTRH, Ethical ERC Committee, and subsequently to NASCO, NACOST. This one, we were time barred, so we haven't actually sent it there. However, in internal consultation, somebody actually told us that, do you really need ethical approval for this? And we were running short of time. So I'm sorry that it has found its on the slide, but this particular study has not gone to your ERC. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. So this marks the end of our Friday afternoon session that was dedicated to the East Africa Medical Journal. It's not over. We have the celebrations for East Africa Medical Journal at 100 years. That starts at 8. We're going to have a gala dinner here. So we'll move for tea so that we also allow the hotel to do some planning. But before we do that, I'll welcome Dr. Otara to just close the scientific part of our conference with a few remarks.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to stand before you finally to crown wonderful 50th annual scientific conference of the Kenya Medical Association. I'm sure for those of us who have been attending most of the sessions, we have had benefits. We are definitely better than we came. A lot of interaction has gone on. Cross-board from various fields that play into the planetary health arena. So we are hoping that we shall carry on with this agenda moving forward. And as Professor Rogo has challenged us, we need to move this to affect individual patients and human beings. It's not research for publication, it's research for impact. So it's really good, and I really want to thank each of you who has presented from the day the conference started, for those of us who have participated in asking questions and expressing their opinions freely. In our midst, there is Professor Leslie London. We have not probably just stand and wave. He's one of our guests who came over, and we really appreciate that. With that, we want to once again welcome you to the gala dinner at 8 p.m. So go refresh, come back re-energized. I'm told there is a lot of dancing to be done, and you know, we are celebrating 100 years of great work done by some people who are within this forum. So it's something to look forward to. With that, asanteni sana, and God bless you all. Oh yeah, not to forget, this was a hybrid conference, and besides the physical attendees, we really appreciate our online participants. They have had engagements, they have been commenting, and we really appreciate their input to this conference. Asanteni sana once again. Bye-bye. Tea served on the next rooms.